morning, everyone, and welcome to our press conference. Thank you for joining us today. It's a very, very, very important day for the City of Pittsburgh. My name is Erica Strassburger, and I represent Council District 8 on Pittsburgh City Council. And today, I am proud to introduce legislation that will enable Pittsburgh to install automated red light enforcement, or ARLE for short, systems at select intersections across the city. This technology will allow us to crack down on dangerous driving that all too often results in serious and fatal crashes in high traffic locations in our neighborhoods. I'm pleased to be joined by city and community leaders to celebrate the newest product of our Vision Zero initiative, and we will start by hearing from one of our biggest champions on this, Mayor Ed Gainey.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. First, I just want to say thank you for all y'all coming out today. This is a big day. I think it's a very, very good day. I want to thank Barbara Warwick, Councilwoman Barbara Warwick, and Councilwoman Erica Strassburger for their commitment to Vision Zero. This is something that we believe that will save lives, and every day we get up, that is what we want to do. We want to work on policies, we want to work on procedures, just making sure that we're the safest city in America. So I just want to say good morning. I also want to reconfirm our commitment to the city that we are dedicated to becoming the safest city in America. This goal is only achievable when we work together. It's the only way we're going to get there, through a shared commitment to Vision Zero, our strategy for eliminating traffic fatalities and severe injuries. We believe we can do that. We believe we can do that. Just like we believe we can drop the homicide rate, we believe we can do this. But it's going to take all of us working together. Over the past year, my budget has doubled the funding allocation for traffic calming measures and has significantly increased other traffic safety budgets. The benefits of these investments are already underway. Last spring, we took a major step forward by establishing an official Vision Zero initiative. Thank you, Councilwoman Warwick, complete with several dedicated working groups. These groups are focused on one goal: achieving zero traffic deaths in our city. One goal. Today's event marks one of the most significant milestones in Vision Zero's journey. The automated red light enforcement program is a shining example of how we can break down traditional silos in government to create safer streets for everyone. For all of our pedestrians in this city, we want our streets to be as safe as we can make them, and we want to make them great. The program demonstrates the power of collaboration across different levels of government, all united by a common goal of enhancing public safety. Whether that's city, county, or state, we're all working together. This is great because it started in the General Assembly in 2002 and has been extended through 2027 by various legislative acts. In 2012, the program's authorization was expanded to include second and third class cities with a population over 20,000, allowing Pittsburgh to participate and benefit from these vital safety measures. I want to thank our Vision Zero working groups and all the individuals and organizations that have worked tirelessly on this initiative. Look, we couldn't do this without council. We couldn't do this without our advocacy groups. We couldn't do this without our working groups. We always say it, and I say it every day because I believe we can get there, that we can make this the safest city in America. But it's going to take all of us. I'm glad to see everybody here today. Everybody, the media, working groups, constituencies, because we have to make our city safe, and we're already underway of doing this. And this is another piece of legislation that I believe gets us there. This is another way that you see us working together. I don't want to wake up and see anybody in our city being severely injured or having a fatality. There's no coming back from that. But what we can do is make sure that we put every component in place that gives them the opportunity to live a full life, make our city safe, and continue to show our people that one thing is for sure: this government cares about them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your championship of this initiative and Vision Zero in general. This is, like we said, a very, very big day. I'm going to follow with a background on how we got here, what this bill does, and why it's a necessary step to better enforcing traffic at our intersections. Over the last 12 months, a team of dedicated public officials from the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, Public Safety, City Council, the Mayor's Office, PennDOT, transportation safety advocates, and other stakeholders have been working together to get automated red light enforcement not only passed, but implemented in the City of Pittsburgh. Following the city's commitment to Vision Zero framework, thanks to my colleague Barb Warwick and many other people and her staff, as well as many of those joining us here today, several government-wide subcommittees were created to tackle street safety, including a subcommittee on enforcement. This working group began to chart a pathway to tackling red light enforcement and collaborated to produce today's legislation. But for many people, including myself, this has been a long time coming. I've now served on City Council in one way or another, as a staffer, as a council member, for 10 years. And for 10 years, I have seen how unsafe and distracted driving in the city has made people fearful of our streets. I've heard from family members, parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, children, whose relatives were struck by someone running a red light, not just in the district I represent, but all over the city. Most of us have seen firsthand or read about the collisions at intersections between two or more people driving cars. We all know the intersections near our homes where this happens on a regular basis, where we know we have to wait those extra 5 seconds before proceeding on a green light because all the drivers are rushing through to get through their red lights and trying to get where they're going. But as we know, the most vulnerable, the most likely to be seriously injured or killed, are those not in vehicles. It's the people walking, biking, using a wheelchair, riding in a stroller. Last year, 23 people died in traffic-related crashes in the city of Pittsburgh, 7 of whom were pedestrians. Those are 23 people, human beings, who should be alive today. Their deaths have a ripple effect throughout their families and their communities. Many more people were injured than that. Countless others experienced near misses. As a parent of a 5-year-old, I have trained my child to stay on the sidewalk, stop at the corner, and obey the rules of the road. And yet I am terrified that he'll leave our yard or stray far from our home. Not because of stranger danger, but because I'm terrified that a distracted driver or someone in a big rush is going to hit and seriously injure or kill him. I know most parents and caretakers I talk to feel the exact same way. And the truth is, nationwide, it's getting worse, not better. It's been said before, but it bears repeating. Between 2018 and 2022, homicides in the city increased by 20%, while fatal crashes went up by 71%. And that's even as we've seen the growth of our city's first mobility and infrastructure department and record investment in traffic calming and road safety measures compared to the decades prior. It's clear to me and to those joining us today that we need both continued investment in traffic calming and safe road engineering, as we're doing, and stepped up enforcement if we're going to save lives and achieve Vision Zero. Now I'm going to briefly dive into the details of the legislation being introduced today. This bill formally announces Pittsburgh's intent to implement automated red light enforcement systems as permitted and regulated under state law. While more than 337 communities in the United States currently use automated red light systems, only 4 in Pennsylvania have exercised their authority to do so. However, that includes a big one, Philadelphia, which has operated a highly successful program for over 2 decades. And if they can do it, of course we can do it. By passing this legislation, Council will enable our Mobility and Infrastructure Department to work with PennDOT and public safety personnel to locate, plan, and install red light camera technology at the most dangerous intersections throughout the city. The Pennsylvania Code governs how municipalities may operate these programs. This means, by Pennsylvania law, Pittsburgh's program must include the following features: a 60-day warning period at the first location, and 30-day warning period at subsequent locations. Signage notifying drivers of camera enforcement. Validation of the automated citation by a human before the ticket is mailed. The ticket is issued to the registered owner of the vehicle as a non-criminal offense, much like a parking ticket. All hourly intersections must be approved by PennDOT. Selection of these intersections must be driven by safety need, not potential violation income revenue. Fines are capped at a maximum of $100. A municipality cannot collect an amount equal to or greater than 5% of its annual budget. As you can see, the state has established many safeguards to ensure any local program offers adequate notice to drivers, procedural protections before a ticket is issued, and limited sanctions to violators. Notably, the state regulations remove any government's ability to install red light cameras as a cash grab to pad its general fund. DOMI Director Kim Lucas will go into greater detail on this point in her remarks. It comes down to this. This bill is about saving lives. That's why I've been pushing for it, and it's why Vision Zero Enforcement Group took this up as one of its first priorities. And to those who might take issue with this life-saving program, I'll remind you, you have a choice when you're driving. You can choose to put down the phone, pay attention on the road, obey the traffic signals, drive safely, or you can choose not to, and you'll potentially pay the price. This program will cost nothing to you if you choose to drive safely. I'm excited to continue working with all of you to make our streets, safer streets a reality in Pittsburgh. And now, I am pleased to turn it over to Northside resident and transportation advocate, Katie Sawyer.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Katie. I'm here in support of Councilwoman's legislation for automated red light enforcement. I live on Concord Street in Pittsburgh's North Side, 2 blocks east of one of the proposed Arley locations, Madison at North Avenue. And for those who aren't familiar with the intersection, the north side of Madison is essentially an on-ramp to I-279. So for motorists using Madison, it's an easy, quick way to get out of the city, but for residents in our neighborhood, North Avenue is a vital connection over the highway to access our business district, to access the library, the grocery store, our schools. I would estimate that my family travels through the intersection on foot or bike probably 6-10 times a day. And in fact, my son Wyatt, who's 4 years old, goes to daycare just 3 blocks away from our house, 1 block west of Madison. And so now not only do I have a dog and a bike, but also a kid to get across the intersection. I was invited to speak here last Wednesday, and before I could even develop my talking points on Friday afternoon, I was walking across the street to go pick up Wyatt from school at 5 p.m. And as I approached the intersection, I saw the walk symbol for my direction, and I saw a motorist speed through the intersection, obviously through a red light. It obviously was not a yellow light, and they were gaining speed to get onto the highway. And unfortunately, this is all too common. And I saw it again a few weeks ago, and another motorist almost got T-boned. And when I see these things happen, I can't help but think, what if I was in that intersection just a few minutes earlier? What if I was picking Wyatt up on my way home from work on my bike and he was in the car seat and we were coming the opposite direction on a bike? And I can't help but think we would be one of those statistics, right? We would be one of those people killed or seriously injured. And when people say that Vision Zero maybe isn't achievable, it's a pipe dream, what I hear is that people like me and my son and my family, we're expendable. We are just sort of something that may be lost in this transportation system that prioritizes people getting where they need to go as fast as they can. But we don't have to be. And so I believe that Vision Zero and the automated red light enforcement program in particular is just a little key piece of that overall program that can help ensure that all of our roadway users are safe and get home safe, get where they're going safe. None of us need to be killed or seriously injured on our Pittsburgh streets. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katie, for your advocacy and your personal story. And next, I am pleased to introduce our Department of Mobility and Infrastructure Director, Kim Lucas.
Thank you, everybody who has spoken before me, and good morning. My name is Kim Lucas, and I'm the Director for the City of Pittsburgh's Department of Mobility and Infrastructure. You've heard from the people before me that the city's investment in traffic calming is greater this year in the budget than it has ever been before. Year over year, we are spending more money on making our streets safer by installing speed humps, by improving traffic signals, by making sure that there's great pedestrian infrastructure citywide. But the reality is we can't do this alone. We cannot, in the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, even though our #1 goal is to make sure that people get around without getting hurt or killed, just trying to get their basic needs met, we can't do it alone through engineering and through construction. Enforcement and equitable enforcement is absolutely critical for us getting to that goal of 0 people dying in our roadways. As you heard the council member say before, a lot of what happens on our streets and a lot of deaths are caused by choices. Choices that everybody in this room has probably made before. We've all been late dropping off our kids or getting to work or getting to the store before it closes. The types of choices that lead to people dying or getting seriously injured are not the big choices. Someone doesn't go out and say, I want to kill someone today. Someone goes out and says, I need to get there in the next 10 minutes. By having automated enforcement and by being able to make sure that we've got a way for people to think again and to weigh those choices, this time the choices, I'll probably get caught because I see a sign that says there's a camera here. I'm going to add that into my decision making when I'm choosing to go through this intersection. We have had over 700 serious crashes that have occurred because of people running red lights in our city between 2019 and 2023. 7 people have died simply because someone else made the choice to go through a red light. We're doing everything we can in our department, and I'm so grateful to stand up here with the mayor's office, with members of city council. I see representatives in the room from the Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission, from the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, from Bike Pittsburgh. I'm sorry, I'm starting to name people, which means I'm going to forget somebody. I'm so grateful to the internal partners, Stephanie Gagney from the mayor's office, in tandem with Angie Martinez, our assistant director, have been really pioneering the Vision Zero work. It takes all of us. It takes every single one of us who are here in front of the cameras and every single one of us that are going to be watching this from behind the cameras. We are responsible for the safety of our streets. As mentioned, the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation plays a vital role in this as well. The city can't do this alone, and the rules around this program are coming straight from the state. As you heard the council member mention, we're going to be the 5th city or municipality in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to join this program. And PennDOT's rules tell us how we choose locations, and they have to approve those locations. They determine what amount of revenue the city can retain versus the majority of which has to go back to the state to be turned into more safety investments. And they also determine the prices. And so for anybody who might hear about this program and have questions about the goal and the intent, I'm here to reassure you that the #1 goal is to keep people alive and unharmed, just trying to get where they need to go. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Director Lucas. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Director Lee Schmidt from the Department of Public Safety.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. And thank you to Councilmember Strassburger, Councilperson Warwick, and Mayor Gainey for supporting this legislation. Thanks to the Vision Zero team for working through this with our members of public safety, DOMI, and other departments. Over the past few years, we've seen an increase in aggressive driving and red light running since 2020, as well as an increase in fatal and severe crashes. We know that we need to tackle these issues from multiple angles, including enforcement. Just like any other technology that we all embrace, we all walk around with cell phones now, we all have computers, the way we all work has changed. The way our officers work also is changing. This technology allows our officers to be more efficient, more effective with enforcement. Ultimately, from a public safety standpoint, I hope we collect $0 from this initiative because it allows people to be safe and not run through red lights. That's the ultimate goal. the city's not trying to get revenue from this. Our police officers don't get incentivized to cite people for anything. We are here to enforce the laws, but we don't want to charge people. We don't want to have to do these things. So ultimately, we would hope these signs and this initiative, like in many other cities, causes a significant decrease in red light, people going through red lights and causing accidents, injuring others, etc. This legislation represents a significant step forward in our ongoing efforts to enhance road safety and reduce the occurrence of serious injuries and fatalities. By automating enforcement at the high-risk intersections, we can expand our capacity to deter unsafe and illegal driving behaviors and make sure that police can focus on threats that no cameras can handle. Like I said, it's all about using the technology, smarter policing, smarter working, and more effective and more efficient. I have nothing else from public safety other than to say thank you all again for being here.
Thank you very much for joining us, Director Schmidt. And finally, to close us out, before I'll have some wrap-up remarks, is Chris Sandvig, founder and executive director of Mobilify and a transportation advocate himself. Chris.
Thank you all for being here. I also really need to thank Mayor Gainey, Councilperson Strassburger, Councilperson Warwick for their unapologetic leadership on this issue and just taking it on their shoulders and running with it. It is great because we've been talking about these things for as long as I've been doing this work, which is now 15 years, but now we actually have legislation that is in front of us to get serious about this. So I am an advocate. I've dedicated my professional life to doing this sort of work. I am also a transportation nerd. I dare you to find a bus route in this city that I don't know where it goes in general. I am a vulnerable road user, and I'll come back to that in a minute. And I am also a victim of our streets and what happens on them. That's what I'm going to talk about today, is what it is like to be someone who tries to and had to and now has to again live almost his entire life without the access to a motor vehicle. On April 9th, coming into work like any other day, I am a regular commuter. I was struck by a vehicle, a motor vehicle, and landed on the ground and came to realize that both of my wrists were shattered. There were 2 additional fractures in my left ulna, my right shoulder blade, my left collarbone, breaks in my 4th and 5th metatarsal on my left foot. And so I was in the trauma ward for 10 full days, literally unable to move as a consequence of this. I was lucky. I was wearing a helmet. I am healthy in general. I have the privilege to recover from my injuries. And I also understand how this system works, which is why I'm actually not mad at the motorist. And I will say this was not at a red light, but as someone who has cycled in this city on average 3,000 miles a year just to do my daily living, I have been close to getting hit. As someone who uses 3 or 4 bus routes, different bus routes over the course of a week, and I'm a pedestrian more as a bus rider than I am as a cyclist, I have almost been hit. I sit there as someone driving who has gone through an intersection while someone comes ripping down Penn Avenue at I don't know what speed to turn left in front of me, honking his horn at me because he's running the red light and should be allowed to. I have almost been hit. So, you know, as a consequence of this has become very personal to me. I also, in my 40s, was forced to live for 2.5 years without driving. So I did not have access to a car that And so I've experienced this a lot, and I think a lot about what that means for myself and the people who are around me that professionally I'm trying to help and personally I deeply care about as a resident of this city. I had the privilege to recover, and what does that mean? I had decent insurance. I had people who cared. I had someone who lived with me who could essentially become, for 6 weeks, a single working mother to a 50-year-old who had the physical capabilities of an 18-month-old. And I do mean that. I couldn't do anything for myself. I could not even go upstairs on my own, let alone brush my teeth or any of those other daily functions. I had the support of others. I have the socioeconomic status and privilege to know what this is like, and also to call on people whenever this happens, and the attention that that brings. So I've been thinking a lot about what that really means. Whether I'm a pedestrian, whether I'm a cyclist, whether I'm a bus rider. And it's frankly scary. I know that just from anecdotally how aggressive it's gotten out there. It has not subsided since the pandemic. That's my anecdata on this, as someone who, even during the pandemic, was getting around by the bicycle. I know it could have been worse. I shudder at what that looks like. Some of those scenarios that worse to me is actually not dying, given my situation. And so as we go through this, I also think about, as we think about red light safety, those people who have either been hit and the driver kept going, especially them, those who had a near miss and were able to pull back. And I ask people who are against this sort of thing or who are going to raise a stink about it, is 45 seconds savings worth killing someone, seriously maiming someone? Is it worth somebody's child, mother, grandmother getting hit or dying as a consequence of this? Is it worth some single parent being knocked out of commission and not being able to do what I was able to do to keep a roof over their head for their children and for others? I personally don't think so. I don't think my life is worth 45 seconds. I hope nobody thinks their life is worth 45 seconds of savings to get to where you think you're trying to get. And so I am extremely supportive of this. My organization is 1,000% behind this. I have to also acknowledge the leadership of groups like Bike Pittsburgh for pushing this for longer than I've been in this line of work. Let's get this legislation over the finish line, and let's let this be the start of a lot of good things to come to make our streets safer for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Katie, as well, for your personal stories, for illustrating through your personal stories the importance of this initiative. And so I have to close with some thank yous. Legislating is a team sport, and there are many people to thank. Everyone who spoke here today, thank you. Everyone who has advocated for safer streets, and especially for automated red light enforcement. I see representatives from Bike Pittsburgh here today. Scott Bricker, you've been doing this work for many decades, and I want to thank you and all of the pedestrian and bicycle neighborhood organizations as well throughout the city. I also want to include in that group Beth Hoffman, who lost her sister last year when she was crossing a street in Squirrel Hill and was hit and killed by a driver who's been a public health-based advocate for safer streets since then. Special thanks to Angie Martinez, Panini Chowdhury, Kim Lucas, and everyone at the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure for your work on this. In the mayor's office, I have to give huge thank you to Stephanie Gagne and Lisa Frank and David Maynard for all of their work with the Vision Zero task force and subcommittees. all of my council colleagues to support here today, especially Councilperson Barb Warwick, who we mentioned before, a co-sponsor of this legislation, as well as Laura Byko in her office. I also see Councilman Kahari Mosley here joining us today. Thank you, Councilman, for joining us and for your voice support of this legislation. From the Pittsburgh Parking Authority, Matt Jenderzewski and Dave Honorato, Takina White and Commander Ray Ripple from the Department of Public Safety, Sylvia Harris from the Department of Innovation Performance, and last but certainly not least, from our office, Scott McMurtry, Patsy Boone, Davon Brown, as well as our excellent summer intern, Nick Moglia, who helped to draft portions of this bill and pull this together today. So with that, I'm happy to close and take any questions that members of the media might have.
Are you optimistic that this will pass, and when do you think that it would come up for a vote, just so we have that advancement?
Given the conversations I've had with every single council member, I am optimistic this will pass. I believe that we've all seen and heard loud and clear from those in our neighborhoods that people are ready for this. Despite some misgivings here and there, that people are ready for this. It has broad support throughout the city.
You're introducing it today. Would it be in a couple of weeks voting?
We're introducing this today. We go on council recess for a few weeks. This will allow for anyone from the public who wishes to engage with the city. I want to call out our Engage PGH page that will have information and ways for the public to interact with all the people, all the departments here today with a comment box and contact us so that if there are any changes, tweaks, amendments that need to be made prior to discussion of this bill after recess is over, then we will have the opportunity to make those amendments and have discussion.
Councilmember, the driving situation, sometimes a lot of those things can be situational. In this case with intersections, sometimes the traffic may not be moving in that direction properly, leaving people stuck at an intersection. Would they be kind of subject to those infractions as well, or is that kind of a case-by-case situation?
It's a great question and something that we'll have to discuss and take case by case. I will also just remind you that there will be a human who reviews each and every citation prior to sending the citation in the mail.
And speaking to that human element as well, would that be coming from possibly traffic enforcement? Would that be in a position up for hire? Kind of how does that go?
That's something up for discussion. Yeah, thank you.
Have you identified each intersection where you're going to make this part of the initial rollout, and how many cameras will it be?
The intersections have not yet been identified. It will be a data-driven process. So based on things like crash history and any kind of data that relates to the safety of the intersection, even the angles of the intersection that make it difficult for sight lines and for safety reasons. So it'll be data-driven, and those have not yet been decided.
Do you expect a community engagement process before that is decided?
I expect it to be mostly data-driven, but certainly people who wish to ask for their intersection near their house or that they know of to be considered can reach us at City Council and on the Engage PGH website.
What kind of time frame are you talking about? How many intersections do you need the camera, the physical equipment?
Can you repeat your question?
Do you know how many intersections you're going to roll this out at?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eric, what kind of time frame are you working on once this is passed to when it'll be up and running?
Yeah, it will have to go through a full RFP process, so we expect it to, at the very least, take the amount of time that a full RFP process to choose the vendor that we'll use for these red light camera systems.
And who pays for that? Is that the city, or is that money from the state from other programs?
That will be an investment from the city, so it's subject to the mayor and city council budgeting the appropriate funds for this program. I will say that we have already benefited from the statewide ARLI program. There is a certain portion of the funds that we collect. Actually, all the funds need to go to the Transportation Enhancement Grants Program at the state level, and then cities that have these cameras get first priority to win some of that money back for intersection upgrades and traffic safety projects. Even without even having this program in our city yet, we've benefited from Philadelphia, Abington, and other cities having it in place. We've already improved we've made 7 signal upgrades across the city with money from this pool of funds at the state level, spending $1.4 million from this fund. This will help grow the pool of funds for not only Pittsburgh, but for cities and municipalities across the state.
So is this something that will take a year after it's approved, or not that?
We don't have an exact timeline. Any other questions?
Do you have any estimate as to how much these cameras, this technology might cost per unit?
I don't, but I'm sure we'll discuss that in good detail in the council standing committee meetings.
Any ballpark on how much each intersection will cost?
For each camera or for each
For each
upgrade?
full intersection?
I don't know, I don't have an estimate on the price of the cameras. I can tell you that intersection upgrades, if we're talking about full reconstruction of intersections, I mean, it can range from a signal replacement, and this is, again, not for the camera technology. This is if we wanted to improve the entire intersection, can range anywhere from $300,000 up to a full intersection upgrade that's closer to $1 million, which we've used hourly money from across the state to do in the past.
When you said that you're going to be going on recess for a little bit, are you saying it probably won't come up for discussion for like a month or so at
Correct.
this point?
Is this something that will spread to all intersections in the future, or would it just be contained to the most dangerous ones?
It would be the intersections that our Department of Mobility and Infrastructure gets approval from PennDOT to install them at. All right, thank you all for joining us today.